Hello, all of you beautiful beings of light. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Victoria Reynolds. I am an angelic walk-in, the author of 4 books with a couple more on the way, a spiritual luminary and spiritual teacher. I have books, I have sessions, and I have classes available for all of you who are looking to transcend the present fear-based reality and create a life you love. Today, I have on a very special guest, Karla Michelle. Karla was one of my students for the Transcendence Process last summer. She is a pure delight, and I'm so thrilled to be sharing her with you. Her story is so amazing and so inspiring. And I told her that someday when I'm making movies, I want to make a movie out of her story, because what she's been through and the story of hope and inspiration that she has for all of you is really it's the only place you've ever seen anything possibly like this is in the movies. And you know how they say that sometimes truth is stranger than fiction. This is the case with Karla Michelle. So I'm so delighted to bring her on here with all of you so that you can hear her story in her own words, and the hope and the inspiration and the amazing gratitude that she lives her life by. So I'll bring her in right now. Hi, Karla. I'm so delighted to have you on here and have you share your message of truth and hope for the rest of humanity, for all these people who wonder if miracles are really possible. Because for me, that's who you are. You represent a walking miracle, if you will.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for having me on your show. I am truly honored to do this. I had to kind of set myself aside and realize this is not about me. This is about, the people that I want to inspire and help for the upcoming. So, yeah.
So you found me. I don't even know how you found me to come and attend my classes. And you were so inspiring to everyone else in the group. For those of you who don't know what this class is, I have a class called the Transcendence Process. It's based on the process that my higher self gave me during my own, what I now call my holy shift. So 10 years ago, I wasn't calling it a holy shift. It was just a holy bleep, right? And my life was falling apart. And Spirit gave me this transcendence process to heal my own life. And I was guided to start sharing it forward with everyone else. So you participated in what I call my beta class. You were one of the first class I did a year ago in a group environment. And it was such a pleasure to have you there, because your story was so amazing and so inspiring. And I know that it ignited the hearts of everyone else in the class. So why don't you go ahead and we'll talk first about your backstory, if you will. Everybody has a backstory. So you have a backstory, and then what you're doing with your life now.
Okay. So, as you know, my name is Karla Michelle, and I am over 3.5 years sober. I also am I call myself a Skidrow baby. I lived on Skidrow, or in Skidrow, in downtown San Diego. I was truly into my addiction. I did come from a family, middle class. My grandparents were in the military, or the grandfathers. And then I've also, my son, military, my ex-husband in the military. And so I've been around military most all my life. And we ended up losing our home. My husband and I, we lost our home back in 2014. And actually, we went on the streets. We had no place to go. And the drugs got worse. Our life just toppled down. My life just toppled down to below the depths of hell, as far as I'm concerned. And, I would get clean, and then I would go back out, and I would get clean. I would go back out, and where it took me. And that was after reaching out to, so many organizations to get help. And I think where it started was an inside job. there was no savior to come save me. I had to, have a moment of clarity, and I did. So on December 1st, 2018, I was actually up in a lady's apartment, and I thought I was getting retribution for my family, and I had stolen from her, but I didn't realize it in my own head that that's what I had done, because I just knew that was my children's things, my husband's things, and she had taken them. Well, I walked outside with this cart full of stuff that I thought was my family's. And I looked around, and in front of me was a bunch of tents, people smoking dope, drinking. Just, it was crazy. And I just had a moment of clarity to that if this is my life, I was afraid to keep living like this. I was afraid, because I've tried multiple times to commit suicide. I've driven off a 30-foot cliff. I have scars on my body. Trying to commit suicide, walked on the freeway. I wasn't dying. And what truly scared me was not of dying, because I tried, but what did scare me was that I was going to continue to live through eternity like this. And so I hopped the trolley illegally and got myself to a 12-step meeting. And I walked in, and I was covered in body fluids. I had a blanket over my head, and I was pushing a cart, and I just sobbing. I don't know. And I couldn't even sit still for the meeting. And, then it's kind of flourished from there. I went and got into detox, and that's usually, so let me back up. So December 1st, when they told me this was on a Sunday, they told me that I needed to get to detox. And it was very, very cold in December. And so I went and laid on the sidewalk one more time. And it was so cold. At 3:33 in the morning on December 1st, the night guard came and kind of kicked me a little bit and said I need to get up. And I remember waking up and looking at him and saying, please, just let me get into detox. And he says, okay, I'll let you stay here. You have to leave right before 5. I woke up at 5:03. If anybody knows about anything about numbers, those are, very good numbers. And so I went and stashed my blankets that a lady had given me the night before behind the dumpster. And I went and got on a bus and went and grabbed a little something to eat, came back. And it normally takes anywhere from a week to 2 weeks to get into detox. And they let me in that very day, and it's been a go ever since. So that's where that's where that was. And now 3.5 years later, I have obtained my housing. And I own a car. All of the things, because I do want to spread my message, and through doing that is having these things in my life to make that possible. But what I have today is something that, number one, people don't usually make it out off of Skidrow. They do not make it out of Skidrow. There's been so many times I've walked by, dead bodies, and and just wish that could be me, and it wasn't happening. And it's still, as many know, it's still going on. So I actually found, I was looking on YouTube. I always go to YouTube, and I saw Nicholas. I don't know. I just call him Nicholas V. And I saw you, and you were just a light of angel. And I just knew that I was in the right place. And I heard you talking about the fifth dimension, I believe is what we were doing. And, we were ascending, and I'm like, I have got to get to this woman. I just felt really drawn. And so I signed up for your class, and that is where things really started to shift. I started to learn to love myself through your class, through the program that I had been going, the 12-step program I was in, and, getting the right people around me. And I put myself through college. I paid for all of my college without any assistance from anybody. And, I'm trying to get a business up and going. And through knowing and seeing and living that life of just, I want to start I see that in this side that I can change or help shift, that. But obviously, I'm going to need help doing that. And so that's where I'm at today.
Wow. Every time I hear your story, it almost brings me to tears because I, as you know, I was making a movie a few years ago about the homelessness issue, and I was in Skidrow, downtown Los Angeles. I had never actually seen it. I'd only ever seen it in the movies, and to actually experience it for yourself, I was blown away by it's kind of like when you see something on TV, it's not quite real. When you're there and you experience it, it becomes real, and you realize the level of pain and suffering that exists there. And what I learned about homelessness is that very few people are homeless. Nobody chooses to be homeless. Well, every once in a while, somebody chooses to be homeless, but there isn't a child out there that says, someday I'm going to grow up and be a homeless person. It's never someone's dream. It's never someone's desire. It's never anyone's plan to become homeless. Every person that's out there on the street is there because something happened in their life that
Correct.
caused that circumstance to happen. Then the other thing that I discovered is that there's a whole misinterpretation about what the homelessness issue, what causes it, right? That everybody who's out there is mentally insane, mentally ill, and that's the reason they're on the streets. That is simply not true. What I discovered is that the homelessness actually causes the mental disease, not the other way around.
Absolutely. And that's in some cases.
When you've been homeless for a long enough time, and human beings need a place to plant, a place to root. And when that rooting isn't available for them, they start wilting and falling apart like plants. And so when they're in that environment, they start to lose their connection to themselves. They start to lose connection to everything because they don't have that home.
Right.
And so this is a really important issue, I think, for people to understand. The people who are out there on the street aren't there by choice. They're there because something happened that put them there. And so for me, I do give money to people because it's not it's my obligation to give. It's not my obligation to determine how it's received.
Absolutely.
And I know that the only reason people are there is because there's something about them in their life that has been broken. And there, but for grace go I, because for every single one of us, it's only one choice or one mistake or one little thing step away from that becoming our reality.
Absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. I agree. I am going to take back in 2014. My husband and I were separated at that time. I mean, we were on and off. We've been married over 26 years. So this was very hard to go from a married life to this type of life and be able to know how to even maneuver through it. So I remember I was so hungry. I was so very hungry. I was in El Cajon, in San Diego, in El Cajon. And I went up to somebody and I said, can I please have $1? I just want to buy, a hamburger. And they said no. I mean, and that's their money. Of course, I understand, but what does it take for someone to just, who cares where the money goes? And I just wanted to eat. I was so hungry. I remember towards the end, I was eating out of dumpsters. What stores would throw away. We would salvage the food that we could to try to get food. And it's not, I grew up with stuff, my parents were middle class, like I said. However, I had never experienced anything like that in my entire life. Um, and the complete, utter degradation and demoralization that I felt
Mm.
as I'm eating this food that I've like an animal. It was worse than an animal. We don't even treat our animals like that. And but I knew that I was hungry and I just had to feed myself. And so I what I've come to realize now is in through being in this 12-step program. So over my lifetime, there's so much to it, but over my lifetime, I grew up in a religious home, but I couldn't grasp that part, and that's where I feel uh, was the root of my problem, or one of the roots of my problem, is that there was a tourniquet around my heart, which was cutting off my soul
Mm.
to feel the sunlight of the spirit. Like I didn't, I thought it was funny to see people, like I would frown at people who would laugh and have fun. I just thought that was the weirdest thing ever. Um, and the to see kids and their families out there playing around, I thought was weird because I didn't have that kind of stuff growing up. Yes, my parents did pay attention to me, but there was a lot of abuse. And so to come in all the way in and allow someone, I had to allow it, someone to love me until I could learn to love myself.
Mm.
It's huge, and it's still, I'm trying not to bring tears because it's huge, and it's been a big shift for me. Uncomfortable as it's been, I have a woman in my life who, when I walked into this college that I had started, I'm a psychic, and where I saw dead people out there, I thought I was just crazy, and I too have suffered from severe mental illness, handfuls of medication, weighed over 450 pounds at one point, couldn't even tie my own shoes, to nowadays, to now, I'm up and moving, I'm off the medication, I'm a psychic, I do connect with the other side, and that is only because of allowing move from my heart to let spirit come and be inside of me, and truly that is what's keeping me clean and sober.
Yeah. Well, you reconnected to your true nature, right? And I think that's
I
a
have
lot
as
of
a child.
people don't understand that the spirit, source, God, love, it's always inside of us. It's always with us. We're never separate from it. We just get cut off, the belief that we're cut off from it because of all of our beliefs and all of our experiences. And as you started to peel off the layers of all the pain and all the suffering, you were able to reconnect with that. And that is one of the beautiful things the 12-step program does for people. So there are a lot of people who have these issues and they're not going to go to 12-step because they think it's some religious thing. It isn't. It reconnects you to the divine. And that divine working through us is then able to heal our lives.
Absolutely. I do know, when a child grows up in such an abusive family as I did, there is no reconnecting, or at least I didn't ever see that there was a reconnection. This is truly the first time in my entire 57 years of existence that I've ever felt connection to spirit. So, maybe it was there as a child. I don't know. I don't
As a
know.
newborn. Yeah,
Right.
as a newborn. It was.
But
Yeah.
then you grow up in that abuse, and in it, I didn't know anything different. I've had 7 children, given one up for adoption, which thank God I did that because I feel good about it today. And I have 6 kids. They don't all talk to me, but I am forming a relationship with 2 of them. One of them lives out in the street, because he doesn't see it for himself. But I do let him know I love him, because he too is part of the street soldier community. And in fact, before we hopped on here, I was letting him know that I will, get a hold of him. I love you, I don't ever want him. And that was another thing too, was nobody wanted me around. And I didn't even want me around. But today, I want to be in life. I love life, and I want to inspire, and I want to teach people how to fish, not just give them a fish.
Right.
And it has nothing to do with religion. I don't agree on religion for me, and that's okay. But I have this, I have this connection of feeling a good God, inside me. And there's something bigger. And I know that there's a message that I went through all of that so that I can help.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's one of the things I found. Well, two things. There was one, I remember when you were in my class, and I said, one of the things I've discovered is that a lot of the people who end up abusing drugs and alcohol, if that's the term they use, right, is abusing it, are actually people who are spiritually gifted. Of course, this isn't always the case, but a lot of times we, as souls, the more advanced souls, we choose to incarnate to have really painful experiences. One, because we know we can find ourselves in it. We know that we're here for a much bigger purpose than just to be, I don't want to say ordinary human being, but there are a lot of people out there who are here for the learning. There are some of us who are here to continue to learn, yes, because every life experience we have, we learn from, and we learn from every person we meet. And some of us are here to teach others how to then spiritually progress, if you will. So we incarnate intentionally having really painful backstories specifically so that we can teach people how to move through their own stories. And that a lot of times, those of us who choose those really painful backstories have, now every single person is spiritually gifted. They just don't know that. So every person has the ability to connect to source and get their own answers. And every person has the ability to telepathically communicate. It's just that most people don't know that. What's happened for some of us who are out at the front runners, if you will, I guess that's a good word for it. The way showers, the front runners, the light workers, our gifts are being reactivated early so that we can help the rest of humanity move forward. Yes. So a lot of times those beings will turn to things like drugs and alcohol as a way of coping with being so different and having such painful backstories. Mm-hmm. And then once we wake up to that and go, oh, wow. So like in your case, you're psychic. When you were on the street, you were also psychic, but then you thought you were psychotic. And other people might have thought you were a psychotic. So now you're in a position now where you can separate the two. It's like, okay, the physical experience was a physical experience. Now I see I wasn't psychotic, I'm psychic. And this is actually a spiritual gift that I've been given to be able to help other people. And I know that you are, because you have seen things about me that I didn't see for myself. And so it's one thing people really need to understand is that sometimes this, the old saying, right? You can't see the forest for the trees. Well, even for those of us who are really telepathically inclined, psychic, conscious channels, embodied, angelics, whatever, pick the term, but those of us, even those of us that are more advanced souls, still go someplace else for confirmation.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes is too close and we can actually see what the best move is for us because it's too close. So we'll go see someone else to provide confirmation and clarity, because sometimes other people can see more clearly what's going on in our personal lives. And so, Karla, I know that you've shown some things for me that I kind of knew, but you confirmed for me.
Right. And that's
what I love that school this college you're going to, this school that you're going to is helping you cultivate that.
Yes. I do want to bring up this point too. All of us have innate gifts. No one person has the exact same gift because of the path that we have walked on this planet. And I see this to be true because I've had two sets of twins. And okay, I had them in my belly at the same time. However, he walks one path, she walks another path, but they still have that telepathic knowing and can feel each other. So even identical twins, they have the abilities. However, because the path that they walk separately gives them their own personalized fingerprint of abilities,
Mhm.
if you will, here on this planet, and the experiences that they or I have gone through. I also connect with family members with the other side. I am a medium. I thought I was psycho, but I'm not a psycho. I am a psychic, and it's right. And I'm creating a class with that, or I'm creating a psychic, psychic, not psycho. Don't listen to your head. Um, class through the school that when I came in knowing nothing, and now I'm a teacher at that school. And if you would have said this 3 years ago or 3.5 years ago that I would be in the place that I am, I would have called you a liar and probably been very angry when you told me that, because I would not have seen that for myself. And if this is what 3.5 years looks like for me, could you even imagine the street soldiers that if taught, I'm getting chills, if taught in with a loving and kind manner to open up to their gifts, what this looks like for them is just beyond words. And it's people like you, Victoria, that set the pace for people like me. That doesn't make us different, just the paths and the loving and kind. That's what we need. It starts with being loving and kind. Instead of stepping over a homeless person, stop and say hello. Just say hello. I remember laying on that sidewalk and just wanting to say hello to me. I'm not diseased. I have issues, and there was, like I said, there was no one to save me, but I would love to be part in helping clean up that I was a part of.
Yeah, I just, and Carla, you said something that really hit me, and it's worse than being invisible. It's like being treated like you're diseased, like you're a leper, which, and I hear people say all the time, well, I feel like I'm invisible, like nobody even knows I exist. But the way that we treat the street warriors, that's what you're calling them, right?
Soldiers, our street
Street
soldiers.
soldiers. That the way that we treat these street soldiers is worse than invisible. It's like people treat them like they are the bane of society, like they are disease that needs to be eradicated, and not even recognize that they're all human beings. They all have the same needs and wants and desires as the rest of us. And all anybody really wants is to know that their life has value.
Yes, absolutely.
And that they're recognized. And so I will stop and talk to people and ask them their story. And some people want help and some people don't. But at
Well,
least take the time to stop and ask. And, or if somebody says they're hungry, go inside the restaurant and get them a plate of food. And so there are people out there who don't give homeless people money because they think they're going to use it just to buy drugs and alcohol. And that's why I said, so for me, it is not my determination to decide how the money is used, how the gift is received. My duty is to give. And so for someone who doesn't want to give money, then buy them food. Go inside the 7-Eleven and buy them some food and give them some food. Go inside the local fast food restaurant and buy them some food and give them some food. Every person that's out there is just barely trying to figure out how to exist. Now there are some people who are not. I know that there are some. There are some like homeless pimps, if you will, where they have people go out and stand on the corner and ask for money. And that basically becomes an income stream for them. That's
Absolutely.
very few of the homeless people. All those people you see on Skid Row, they're not out there begging and asking for money. They're just trying to figure out how to survive.
It's survival. It's but it's a way to survive. You know, do I agree with all of it? No. So when I was out there, back in 2000, I don't know, 17, I was on the sidewalk in downtown outside of the post office. And I would ask people, as crazy as this sounds, I would take little polls, because I'm tweaking. I want to talk. So I would ask people, if you could have three things to make your life better, what would you want? And they said we would want bathrooms, clean bathrooms, we want to shower, and we want healthy food. Like, that's just basic needs. That's not even saying a house, because it's not attainable, you know? And having housing comes with a price, and a lot of those people have experienced paying that price for having housing. So that wasn't even a part of it. So just the basic needs.
Wow. So not even a better tent or a better blanket. It's just a bathroom, a shower, and food.
Yeah.
Wow. And those are things that the rest of us just take for granted every day.
Absolutely.
Bathroom. I mean, to even think about that just the basic trying to find a place to go to the bathroom.
Absolutely not attainable out there. And after a certain time, the businesses, they close the bathrooms to homeless, or they won't even let the homeless in to go. If you're homeless and you look homeless, you're not allowed in the restaurant. We don't want you here, you don't belong. That feels, just saying that, it hurts my soul, it hurts my heart to know that we treat another human being like that. Who gives anybody that right? But at the same time, I understand that these people are like, it's it's beyond words. I understand that they are a mental society and they're messy and they're, however, let's be part of the cleanup crew. Let's get them, teach them how to fish. Don't just throw them into a tent, a homeless tent, and hope that that's going to fix it and tuck them away and nobody sees them. That's not the solution. That's absolutely not the solution.
Teach them how to get back into society.
Because
my understanding is most of them do. What I was really, really heartbroken to see is how many of the people out there sleeping in tents are families.
Families and veterans.
Families. Yeah, where dad lost his job and who has 3 months worth of income saved in the bank to be able to go get another place to live. If you've only got a couple of months of income and that income runs out and then you can't stay in your apartment, then you end up on the street with your family.
Right. And that's what happened to us. We did not have, and my husband was putting himself through school. Well, he was going through the veterans to go to school. He was beginning cybersecurity. And, he went to war 3 different times. So he had, episodes where he would wake up screaming in agonizing, PTSD. And I remember, and he tried to commit suicide, and the veterans got wind of this, and they cut almost $900. Well, no, it was $1,000 of his pay. Then, because that happened, our son was on Social Security because he suffered from some mental issues, and that was $1,800 in 1 month. 1 month, $1,800, which left us a little over $300 of my SSI that I was getting at that point. So we lost our home. There was no, and so we still have that eviction because it happened before 2017, and so it's been very hard to obtain housing even still. Our credit's been dinged a million times, and this is how they treat. Yes, the street soldiers. our veterans and their families who have put their lives on the lines for humanity. This is how they get treated. It
Yeah.
makes no sense to me, and it upsets me terribly. It's
Yeah.
just awful.
The thing that's really disturbing to me is that rather than giving your husband more assistance, they cut him off.
Yes, yes, because he was going to school, and that was his school fund, and they had cut off his school fund because he tried to commit suicide. Yes,
So rather than giving him the additional support that he needed, they cut his support off entirely.
they did tell him he could go to PTSD classes, but in the PTSD classes, they're not as far as I know, they weren't. They were talking about the trauma. He wanted to get out of the trauma. They gave him handfuls of medication. It just, and that to a man can be very demoralizing.
Mm.
You know, so it just, yeah, they cut us off of his school fund, which was $1,000 a month, $997, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, $1,000. Our rent was $1,675 a month.
Wow.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that a lot of the people who are on the street are veterans.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Is that one of the reasons you call them street soldiers?
No, it's because it's a fight every single day. This
Mm.
so my humanitarian project that I dream about is not just for veterans. They have so many things out there for veterans, but it's the veterans of the streets. We have gang members, we have veterans that have been in war, we have veterans of abuse, we have veterans that they grew up on the streets.
Yeah.
We have moms, we have dads, we have sisters, we have daughters, we have uncles, we have, I had this one friend, and I know I can speak about him because he committed suicide. I met him through the 12-step program, and I remember being in downtown, going to the phone shop, and I saw him, and Joshua says, "Is that you, Karla?" And I'm like, "Yeah, how you doing?" And so I brought him to my small little bug infested, it was bed bug infested room in downtown San Diego, but that's the only place I could afford. So he ate, took a shower, and then he left, and he would come back in short little stints, and he would say, "I'm never going to get off drugs." He said, "Because if I get off drugs, that means that it's just going to be a vicious cycle." When I was in Mississippi last year visiting my family, I got a phone call from his sister, and I'm like, "Oh, how's Joshua?" And she said they found him 3 days ago. He had hung himself in an abandoned building downtown.
Hmm.
So that's what we have to, and who's going to clean up that mess? You see, now we've got a family that's broken. He left 2 children here,
Mm.
wife. Just it's horrible. It's deplorable, and all of this. There just has to be a cleanup method. We need to come together as a community, and
Yeah.
we don't see them and we don't hear them doesn't mean they don't exist.
Right. Well, and then during the day, you don't really see them because a lot of them, they pack up their bags, they hide their blankets, and then at 5, 6 o'clock, Tent City comes out.
Yep. Yes.
So during the day, a lot of people don't even know.
Because the businesses are open.
Yeah.
Because the businesses are open and they're not allowed to be there, which I understand that does affect businesses. But
Mhm.
where are they supposed to go?
Right. Where else are they supposed to go?
Exactly.
And how can we create an environment so that people can help themselves? So as we talk about, not just giving people fish, but actually teaching them how to fish. And one of the issues with our present social services situations is that they just want to throw money at a problem. But just giving people money doesn't get to the root. So it's kind of like how with our pharmaceuticals, for example, all that does is throw money at the symptoms.
Yes.
It doesn't get to the root cause. And how do we get to the root cause and heal people at the root so that the symptoms never even manifest?
Absolutely.
That's what we need to get to. Let's get to the root cause of all these people who feel broken.
Mhm.
What causes them to feel broken to begin with? And how can we heal that brokenness before it turns into a major issue?
Well, it's generational too. This isn't just our parents or our grandparents or the people who raised us. This just goes back many lifetimes.
Mhm.
Us as souls being in other lifetimes and what we've had to, survive. They had witch hunts, for people like my soul. I'm sure I was burned a few times, or suffocated.
Yeah.
So in this lifetime experiencing what I've experienced, there's a reason for that. So I can, so I could wake up and help people with spiritual gifts, and
Right.
they're all over in the community, you know, and still now it's not widely accepted, but it's more accepted today than it's ever been. Absolutely.
Yeah, and so it almost feels like going into these communities and talking to each person one at a time. Who
Absolutely.
are you? What's your story? What do you really need?
Right.
And help them. It's funny. I'm even seeing, like, now I know why a lot of homeless people hang out in the parks. It's because that's where the bathrooms are, right?
Well, it's because it's free. It's free game during the day. During the day,
Yeah.
you can be in the parks, but then you can't. But a homeless person can't be in the parks at night because of the crime. So they closed the parks down. So they're real. So the only place is the sidewalk. Well, I'm going to use my son as an example. I won't use his name. He stays awake because being on the streets is very dangerous.
Hmm.
And the cops mistaked him for someone else. Okay, he had a trolley warrant. Okay, but the way they treated him, he said, "Mom, they put handcuffs on my hands. My hands were behind my back, and then they slammed me down to the ground."
Hmm.
Face into the sidewalk. Now, that's very hard for a mother to hear. I understand this probably is, come into the program. Let's get you some help. It's not that easy. There's
Right.
the fentanyl and the alcohol, and there is an addiction to being on the streets as well. That was something I had to work on, was the addiction of being out there. That's an addiction in itself because being out there so long.
Right. Oh,
So
that became your new comfort zone.
absolutely, because that's what I knew. And it is not safe out there. you
Yeah.
know um
Well, especially for women.
Absolutely. I was raped twice when I was out there. I was raped twice. And when I went to go to the hospital to tell them about that, because I was angry, I understand, my part in it. But where is it that, they kicked me out of the hospital? Didn't even give me a trolley ticket to get to the next trolley stop. I went on the trolley and the trolley cops were waiting there waiting for me. And
Hmm.
so I had to sneak off there, sneaking and lying, and it's a racket in itself. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's really extraordinary that you were able to get yourself out of that, And what that you showed up at that AA meeting in the condition that you were in. And what I'm feeling is the immense compassion they had for you
Absolutely.
to be
Well, it's
to be
compassion.
in your condition and say, this is what you need. They didn't
Absolutely.
look at you and say, oh, you're a disgusting homeless person, get out of the meeting. They brought you in and welcomed you into the meeting and did what they could to assist you and support you.
Absolutely. And the thing is that this is an inside job. Yes, to some extent there is help that we need to give them, but then there's an agreement that I had to, you know,
Right.
be willing to do the work inside. However that looked. And that's a very scary place, is to go within and feel, because I have the feels today, that's why I use drugs and alcohol, because I didn't want to have the feels. And
Right.
today I invite those feels, and that's why they numb as much as they do, along with other things, I'm sure, to help with the cold and the weather and, being without food, but just that connection inside. Uh,
Yeah. It's having to go within and deal with our own internal demons.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I can remember, when I was doing one of my steps, my 4 step with a sponsor that I trust immensely. I trust her with my life. Um, you know, um, sharing with her to the point where I was crying so hard I could not catch my breath. But the release of energy just from that, oh my God, like, it just feels so good that I've done that work. I wouldn't want to go back there. There's no way.
Right.
Knowing what I know and knowing that I feel today, I wouldn't want that. And I know that that's possible for other people. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And that now you're able to share it forward in a sense, not necessarily financially, but now you're able to share this message with other people and be of assistance to other people who want assistance with that. Not even just the way that other people would provide assistance. It's the telepathic abilities that you have to be able to assist people, which is really extraordinary. That you can give back to the community in a different way than just throwing money at it. And so it isn't about giving your services away. But what I love is that you've now come to a point in your life where you value your time and your energy enough that when you're providing sessions to people, that you know to ask for reciprocation for your time and energy. And I know it's difficult for a lot of people to even get to that point of, this is what my services are, this is how much my services are, and this is my work. This is what I'm paid to do. And to honor yourself and your own value enough to ask for financial reciprocation for your work is really a big deal for a lot of people to get to that place. And so I'm really, really proud of you for being able to do that too. That now you work for the school and the school pays you to help teach. You now have your own psychic mediumship business that clients now pay for you to give them sessions, and that you're now able to receive that without any kind of self-worth issues attached to that.
Exactly.
It's really, really amazing.
Well, thank you.
Because I know that self-worth is that's huge. That's like the overarching issue underneath all of it.
It's about the self. I wake up every morning with ISM, the I self me syndrome. And so I have to do things. And first thing when I hit my feet on the floor is to ground, number one. And number two is to get myself into a community of other people who are dealing with their I self me in the first thing in the morning. And with suiting up and showing up like that and being of service to somebody else, I move out of that I self me and make it about who can I help?
Mm-hmm.
How do I help? How do I make amends of all those people I've hurt, including myself? Well, the best thing I can do is to suit up and show up clean and sober today. And that's how I give back. And that's how I say I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and then you have your daily gratitude list that you've been texting me, and it's sometimes I'm just in tears because I know how powerful gratitude is.
Absolutely.
It is one of the most powerful forces in the universe, and I love that you figured out how to use it on a daily basis to really help you stay clean and sober, and then also cultivate this new life you're creating for yourself.
Absolutely. I didn't feel gratitude and love pretty much my whole life.
Right.
Because I do today, I want to share it with other people, and yeah, I still get angry. I still lose my, I did it the other day. And what I've learned is that doesn't define who I am. However, I have the tools to be able to go back to this person through a text, how I sent that, mad text, but it wasn't even about this person. It's just was something else. And I can clean it up by apologizing and then not trying very hard not to act like that again.
Right.
Giving gratitude and self-love. If I treat myself well and know how that feels, then I'm going to most likely treat people with love and kindness and compassion as well.
Right.
I want this. If I treated you the way I treated me, nobody would have stuck around. They wouldn't have, and they didn't. Didn't. So the best thing I can give myself is self-love, self-care, self-mastery. Why? Because that means it permeates out to the planet.
Absolutely. And I always tell people, treat yourself the way you want other people to treat you.
Mhm.
And very few people grasp that because we've been taught in our belief systems to treat other people,
Yeah.
you know, treat other people the way you want to be treated, but to really take that and really own it, to treat ourselves the way we want other people to treat us.
Absolutely.
It's a complete shift in consciousness. And that when we really get that, it's like, I would never talk to somebody else the same way. I'd let that little voice in me beat me up.
Oh,
And so we need to get, this is about getting really conscious and listening to the way that we treat ourselves, listening to the way we talk about ourselves, and change our language so that what we speak to ourselves is loving. And what we speak to ourselves is loving then becomes the language that we speak to everyone else. When we have compassion with ourselves, then we have compassion for other people. And it's always an inside job. It's always about our relationship with ourselves. Ultimately, everything comes down to the relationship we have with ourselves. And I love that you're learning that you've learned that, and that you're now able to teach that forward.
thank you. And it is a process. We don't just come in here, brimming with unicorns and rainbows. It doesn't. It's all very broken.
I think we're born that way, and then we forget it.
you know and so
Yeah.
it's a process, and the arms and the hearts that are open for us who either choose or are chosen to, you have to go, the nudge from the judge,
Yeah.
that get to make it to the 12-step program. Well, even when we don't see it for ourselves, they love us until we can love ourselves. And yeah,
Yeah.
truly a gift.
Yeah. So how do people find you if they want to have a session with you? How do they find the school if you want to tell them more about the school? And is there a way that people can contribute to your Street Soldier program yet?
Not contributing to the humanitarian project. It's not ready yet. Still in blueprint. You can reach out to me at Karla Michelle 1017 at gmail.com. My website's not quite done yet. And also, the school that I teach at, and there's other teachers there, is Intuitive Insights. If you go to all lowercase myintuition.net, they have a whole website of beautiful classes and courses and beautiful teachers, and they and Vesa Reinhardt. She's the founder or the co-founder of that school, and she brings so much light to this planet. And I really feel like, if you feel that you may be psychic or you see dead people, you probably do, and that's the place. That's the healing place. So
And so
yes,
for everyone that's watching, I will have that contact information in the description below. So you can get in touch with Karla and have a session with her. Amazing psychic and mediumship abilities. As I mentioned, I have experienced those, and she's the real deal. And do connect with her. She's an amazing human being, and someday I hope to make a movie out of her story. That's one of my dreams, is to make what I call books on film, stories on film, because these are the kinds of stories that can really change the human experience and teach people what's really possible. This is, it's funny because we've been reading history books since forever, right? His story, and I have a dream of teaching her story, and this is a perfect example of her stories. Not just about women, of course, but this is about telling the other side of the story, Mother Earth's story, the stories of what women have experienced and overcome, and men too. Not all men have been successful and rule the world. There are a lot of men who have also experienced some really painful stories. But every one of us can be inspired by the stories of other people rising above their circumstances. So I want to tell stories about people rising above their circumstances to inspire the rest of humanity for what's really possible. And the truth is that everything is possible. I know, Karla, on your Facebook page, you have I'm turning impossible to I'm possible. And I honestly believe that
yes,
the impossible can become I'm possible when enough people recognize it within themselves. And we get out of telling these fear-based, war-torn stories and start telling new stories,
absolutely,
true stories of what's really possible for humanity.
Absolutely. And we never again, never alone do we ever have to do this life alone. We just don't.
That's right.
Let us get together and come together as a community, and just love is where it starts. Just where it starts. Because unconditional love, we unconditionally love no matter where that person's at.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here, Karla, and for being so open and transparent about your story, and sharing with the world what is, what has been, and what's really possible for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Victoria.
You're so welcome. And for all of you who are watching, thank you for being here, for your presence on the planet. As I always say, remember to hold your light so high others can't help but see their own light. Together, we are creating a world of peace, love, harmony, prosperity, and freedom for all life on Earth. And as always, get bold, be fearless, and live free. Yeah.